Hi, Steve Gamache with a Chef Knives to Go quick look roundup, and this time we're looking at the Kohetsu Blue Number 2 Nashiji series, and this series is composed of a blue or aogami blue paper number 2 carbon steel core surrounded by a stainless steel cladding. Nashiji is traditionally a pear skin or kind of a wrinkled finish, and the finish on these is a little bit more, I guess, rustic in nature than something like you'd see out of Masakage Yuki, for example, or a Teruresu Fujiwara, white number 1. But anyway, it kind of reminds me of a Gassen a little bit, but not as shiny, much more of a matte finish. So that's the style of the cladding on these. But they are all stainless clad for lower maintenance. Only the edge core steel exposed at the edge here is carbon and reactive. The other general characteristics about this knife line, let's talk about the handles. The handles are pretty good, just basic. What they categorize as chestnut with a plastic ferrule. Nothing really fancy. There is a step here that you'll get between the wood and the plastic, but in use I don't really find it too obtrusive. These actually are pretty nice feeling handles, and they feel definitely, at least the wood part feels more higher end than some of the real cheap hoe wood handles you'll see on some knives. The fit and finish on these knives overall is quite good. Most of them are reasonably relieved at the choil, neck, and spine. Probably won't require much sanding unless you're real acute in reference to that. But pretty well ready to go out of the box. The edges on them are so-so, and all of them should probably be sharpened, and they'll sharpen up great because Blue Number 2, at least these, are very easy to sharpen, and they sharpen up nicely. And other characteristics about this line, they tend to be fairly stout knives and fairly thick right coming out of the handle, and then they thin down, but they're pretty stiff, stout knives. They're not super laser thin, but they're pretty thin behind the edge. We'll get to that in individual videos. Overall, I would say they're a little heavier and a little thicker, not quite as thin behind the edge, and not quite as like shiny and polished as, let's say, the Kohetsu SLD series. I've seen the Santoku and the Nikiri in that, and those are definitely a little bit better cutters because they're thinner and they've got larger primary braid roads and they're thinner behind the edge. But these are good cutters as well. The petty in particular is quite thick at the spine and tapers down pretty nicely, but it's very stiff and wedges a little bit, but boy, is it a stiff knife. So I guess overall these are high quality knives. They've got great steel. You've got low maintenance. This particular handle, if you're wondering, I got a little oil on it, so I went ahead and just put mineral oil on the rest of it and just kind of slathered it down and wiped it down. So this has a mineral oil finish if you're wondering what that looks like compared to the other non-treated handles. So overall, this is a really nice line that Mark has brought in, and we'll look at some of the individual knives in their own videos. So there we have the Kohetsu Blue Number 2 Nashiji series knives.